Go ahead.
All applications must be submitted by this deadline. In an effort to build on the success of CTAS, DOJ asked tribes how to further refine and improve CTAS through an online assessment tool, consultation sessions, listening sessions, and focus groups. Many of these responses and suggestions are incorporated into the next solicitation, which aims to be more user-friendly. CTAS funding history. Through fiscal year 2010 through 2016, an average of approximately 240 applications per year are submitted for nearly 700 individual grants or purpose areas. There have been over 1,654 awards made for over $726 million since CTAS began in 2010. In fiscal year 2016, DOJ received 215 applications that included 537 individual purpose areas with funding requests approaching $250 million. Less than $103 million was funded. Which offices are participating in CTAS? As within previous years, the Office of Justice Programs, OJP, Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, Office on Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP, Office for Victims of Crime, OVC, Office on Community-Oriented Policing Services, the COPS Office, Office on Violence Against Women, OVW. Although CTAS provides one combined solicitation for all of the purpose areas, as I mentioned, the offices before all participate in this, and so technically it's like an application for each one of those offices. It's important to remember that the programs and requirements are the same. The only difference is the application process. These are not DOJ budget or program priorities. These are the statutes that authorize the funds for which the tribes and their authorized designees are eligible. A description of the bureaus and offices that administer the grants and statutes attached to a purpose area can be found on the website at www.justice.gov/tribal. What's new in 2017? As always, we're looking for ways to improve, so one of the things that we've done and we continue to do is the question and answer templates have been further coordinated and refined across all purpose areas to ensure more clarity and reduce duplication. The Strategic Planning Program and/or Purpose Area 2 has been updated for clarity. Awards are contingent upon the availability of funds. The executive summary was replaced by the application overview and is no longer a scored application item. The OVW Tribal Sexual Assault Services Program will continue this year as well to be administered separately from CTAS. This year we've added something new. You may have noticed in JJ's purpose area for the last 2 years, they've asked for, anyone who's applied, they've asked for project abstracts. We've asked for that across the board this year in 2017. And the question will be asked in a separate template document, which you will see in GMS. Purpose Area 8 funding is limited to tribes seeking to develop new juvenile healing to wellness court. Purpose Area 8 funding is limited to tribes seeking new juvenile healing. Well, sorry, that shouldn't be in there twice. What's new in 2017 continued. Purpose Area 4 applicants will be required to certify that the existing facility is structurally sound prior to using grant funds for the renovation or expansion of that project. Purpose Area 4 applicants requesting funds for renovation or expansion of projects must specify whether the tribe is going to maintain the current staffing levels or require new staff as a result of the facility modification. Purpose areas. Purpose Area 1, Public Safety and Community Policing, and tribal, or also known as the Tribal Resources Grant Program in terms of COPS internally. And then there's 2 areas to that. There's hiring, and then there's also equipment and training. The purpose of this is to proactively address the most serious law enforcement needs and to implement or enhance community policing strategies, to increase the capacity of tribal law enforcement agencies for safer communities and to enhance the tribal law enforcement's capacity to prevent, solve, and control crime. Applicants can request funding for hiring, training, and equipment to advance community policing and to help address public safety concerns. The COPS office anticipates awarding approximately $26 million and or 50 awards. Due to the limited funding availability, applicants are restricted to funding based on the following parameters. A sworn force of 1 to 9 officers, $300,000. A sworn force of 10 to 19, $600,000. And a sworn force of 20 or more, up to $1 million. Purpose Area 2, Comprehensive Tribal Justice Systems, Strategic Planning. And the purpose of this is to engage in comprehensive justice system-wide strategic planning to improve tribal justice and community safety and wellness. Purpose Area 3, Justice Systems and Alcohol and Substance Abuse, administered by BJA. This includes Tribal Courts Assistance Program, Indian Alcohol and Substance Abuse Prevention Program, and it's also funding can be used to address alcohol and substance abuse and other crimes through the implementation of tribal justice system programs. And my colleagues here will talk more about that later on if you guys have any questions. Purpose Area 4, Tribal Justice Systems Infrastructure. And this too is administered by BJA. And again, renovation and or expansion of new or existing facility to provide new or continued services such as correctional detention facility, including adult and juvenile incarcerated populations, multi-purpose justice systems, including police departments, courts, and corrections, and alternatives to incarceration, renovation, or correctional facilities that are no longer considered safe and secure to serve as a holding facility or multi-purpose justice centers, renovation or regional detention centers on Indian land for incarceration of offenders subject to tribal jurisdiction, renovation of new or existing facility to provide community-based correctional alternative services, renovation of a new or existing facility to serve as a transitional living facility and or halfway house. Funds cannot be used for new construction. And I repeat that, funds cannot be used for new construction. Purpose Area 5, Violence Against Women's Tribal Governments Program, focuses on decreasing the number of violent crimes, sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking committed against Indian women and girls. Purpose Area 6, Children's Justice Act Partnerships for Indian Communities. The purpose of this is to develop, establish, and operate programs that, 1, provide comprehensive and coordinated multidisciplinary responses to child abuse victims and their families, and 2, provide trauma-informed, culturally competent, holistic services to child abuse victims and their families. Purpose Area 7, Comprehensive Tribal Victim Assistance Programs. The purpose of this program is to develop and enhance and sustain a comprehensive victim assistance program that, 1, provides a coordinated, collaborative, multidisciplinary response to victims of crime, their families, and community. 2, provides trauma-informed, culturally competent, holistic services to victims of crime, family, and community. Purpose Area 8, Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court. The overall goal of this program is to enhance the capacity of tribal courts to respond to the alcohol-related issues of youth under the age of 21. Purpose Area 9, Tribal Youth Program. Again, this is administered by JJ. Funds to support and enhance tribal efforts to prevent and control juvenile delinquency and strengthen the juvenile justice system for American Indian and Alaska Native youth. There are a variety of priority areas, including efforts at prevention, intervention, and treatment associated with this purpose area. It is recommended that tribes choose no more than one area in which to concentrate their proposal. Both JDP purpose areas contain a strategic planning period and require travel to a strategic planning training session. Where to find other grants that are issued by the Department of Justice? There are 3 other grant-making entities at DOJ and the Office of Justice Programs: Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS, the National Institute of Justice, NIJ, and Sentencing, Monitoring, Apprehending, Registering, and Tracking, which is also known as the SMART Office. You can also find other grants on grants.gov at the web address listed there. You can also go to the COPS website listed there, OJP's website, and OVW's website, respectively. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Trish Saxon, who's going to continue on with the rest of the PowerPoint.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to move on to eligibility now, looking at who can apply for CTAS. Federally recognized tribes as determined by the Secretary of Interior. We've included a link to the listing online: Alaska Native Villages and Corporations, tribal consortiums consisting of 2 or more federally recognized tribes, and in some purpose areas, tribal designees. Tribal designees are not eligible in all purpose areas, so do watch for that within the solicitation. An applicant applying as part of a tribal consortium must submit documentation of authority as described under what an application should include section of the solicitation from each tribal consortium member, unless existing consortium bylaws or other tribal governance documents allow action without explicit authorization from the member tribes in the consortium. In that case, a copy of the bylaws or other governance documents that allow the tribal consortium action without explicit support from all consortium members may be included in the application. A tribe may apply as part of a consortium and also submit its own independent application for CTAS, provided that the independent application is for funding for activities that are distinct from those activities which the tribal consortium has applied. If the applicant is a tribal designee under Purpose Areas 5, OVW, Violence Against Women, Tribal Governments, Purpose Area 6, OVC Children's Justice Act Partnerships for Indian Communities Program, or Purpose Area 7, OVC's Comprehensive Tribal Assistance Program, the applicant will need a tribal resolution or equivalent legal enactment from the tribe as a part of the application, which should authorize the applicant to submit the application on behalf of the federally recognized Indian tribe and state the tribe's support for the project and its commitment to participate in the project if it's selected for funding. This resolution or legal enactment must be current, must be sufficient to demonstrate authority for the application, must contain authorized signatures, and must be submitted by the application due date. Please note that designees are not eligible for Purpose Areas 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, or 9. For Purpose Area 1, applications must have an established law enforcement agency that is operational as of February 28, 2017, or receive services through a new or existing contract for law enforcement services with the Bureau of Indian Affairs or a state or local agency. Under Purpose Area 5, applicants that received OVW Tribal Governments Program funding in 2014 and or 15 are not eligible to apply for new funding or consortium funding with regard to the 14 or 15 awards. Applicants with OVW Tribal Governments Program with awards from 2014 or earlier generally are eligible to apply for Purpose Area 5 funding in 2017. However, eligibility may be limited as follows based on the amounts of funding remaining in the applicant's 2014 or earlier award. If the applicant has 70% or more of funds remaining in the award as of February 28, 2017, it is not eligible for FY17 funding in this program. If the applicant has 50 to 69% of funds remaining in the award as of February 28, 2017, the amount of funding may be reduced from the requested amount. If the applicant has 49% or less remaining in the award as of February 28, 2017, it is fully eligible. For Purpose Areas 6 and 7, tribal designees are eligible participants. Purpose Area 6 CTAS FY 2016 Children's Justice Act awardees are not eligible to apply for the FY 17 CJA program. Purpose Area 7 CTAS FY 16 Comprehensive Tribal Victim Assistance awardees are not eligible to apply for CTAS FY 17 CTVA program. Purpose Area 8 and 9 tribal designees are not eligible to apply. Purpose Area 8 FY 14, 15, and 16 Purpose Area 8 grantees are not eligible to apply for FY 17 funding under Purpose Area 8. Purpose Area 9, active Purpose Area 9 grantees that have a period of performance end date on or after June 30th, 2018 at the time of application are not eligible to apply for FY 17 funding under Purpose Area 9. What the application should include. You need to include the Tribal Community and Justice Profile, which is 30% of the total score. Purpose area narrative for each purpose area for which the applicant is applying, and each of those are worth 50% of the subject application. Budget detail worksheet and narrative, including the demographic form, which is 15%. The project program timeline for each purpose area for which the applicant is applying, or a single combined timeline for all purpose areas which the applicant is applying, and that is worth 5% as well. And those application parts that are marked with the double asterisk are required for funding. If your application is missing any of these items, it will not be considered for funding and will not go to peer review. Applications also need to include the tribal authority to apply documentation, indirect cross-rate agreement if applicable, and any other attachments as needed. Applicants may submit a resolution, letter, or affidavit or other documentation as appropriate for that tribe, certifying that the applicant has the legal authority to apply for CTAS awards on behalf of the tribe. This documentation must be current, must be sufficient to demonstrate authority for the application, must contain authorized signatures, and must be submitted by the application due date of February 28, 2017. Other attachments may include letters of support, which are optional, resumes of key personnel, job descriptions for requested positions, memoranda of understanding or with any proposed partners, letters of non-supplanting for Purpose Area 5 applicants, confidentiality notice form for Purpose Area 5 applicants, and documentation of collaboration for Purpose Area 5 applicants. Review each purpose area thoroughly to determine if other attachments are required. How to apply. You want to be sure that you register in GMS early. Prior to submitting an application, you must be registered in GMS. An applicant will not be able to submit an application without registering GMS before the deadline of 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, February 28, 2017. Applicants are strongly recommended to begin the registration process immediately in order to meet the application deadline, especially if this is your first time using the system. It's strongly recommended that you register early, but no later than Tuesday, February 7th, 2017, in order to allow time to resolve any issues prior to the deadline. In general, the Office of Management and Budget requires that all applicants other than individuals for federal funds include a DUNS number in their application for a new award or renewal funding. SAM is a repository for standard information about federal financial assistance, applicants, recipients, and subrecipients. DOJ requires that all applicants other than individuals for federal financial assistance maintain current registration in the SAM database. Applicants must update or review their SAM registration annually to maintain an active status. Please note that only one application per tribe or tribal consortium will be accepted. An application can be revised in GMS up until the application deadline of Tuesday, February 28, 2017 at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you be mindful that it is Eastern Time. If multiple applications are submitted from a single tribe, only the last one will be considered. applicants who cannot submit an electronic application to GMS should call our toll-free GMS or our toll-free number no later than Friday, January 26th for directions on submitting a paper application. The timeline for the CTAS solicitation, we opened on November 29th, 2016. CTAS closes at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, February 28th, 2017. And we expect to make awards no later than September 30th, 2017. Please don't wait until the last day to submit an application. This is a really critical piece of information to keep in mind. Every year we do have some potential applicants who get shut out because they don't foresee a problem that comes up on the final day of application when they're trying to get their applications in. So if you submit early, you won't run into that problem, and if you do run into issues, you'll have time to get them resolved rather than being heartbroken after putting in lots of work and not having your application able to submit. Unforeseen local technical issues on the last day can be very challenging, but that will not extend the deadline. It has to be fair to everyone, and so the deadline is the deadline. I'm going to move on now to the peer review process. All of the CTAS applications that come in and include all of those required parts that I spoke about earlier go through a peer review process. And we do encourage individuals who have an expertise in tribal justice to consider becoming a CTAS peer reviewer. In order to do that, you need to complete the OPM online training program entitled Working Effectively with Tribal Governments. And the URL to where that's located is in this presentation. Once you've completed the training, you save and print and attach the completion certificate to the peer review application. And I've got an email address for you where you would then send the certificate along with your resume or curriculum vitae to get that into the process. Peer reviewers read through all of the applications assigned to them, and they review each section of the application and score them. The Tribal Community and Justice Profile is worth 30%. The Purpose Area Narrative is worth 50%. Budget Detail Worksheet and Narrative is worth 15%, and the Project Program Timeline is worth 5%. To learn more about our available training and other opportunities, we have a dedicated website, which is justice.gov/tribal. We do have webinars such as this one and purpose area specific webinars, as well as financial information webinars scheduled throughout the open period of the solicitation. And if you go to that website, justice.gov/tribal, you can see the schedule for upcoming webinars. You can also find fact sheets and frequently asked questions, as well as prior year solicitations and samples of successful applications on the website. And those can be very valuable just to give you an idea of the types of applications that have been funded in the past. I do not recommend trying to just stick your own information into someone else's application. It won't end up being a high quality application, but it is valuable to get an idea of what has been funded in the past. The online guide to assist tribes in preparing for CTAS can be found at this specific link, or you can navigate to it from the justice.gov/tribal site. The guide contains strategies to read and comprehend a complex grant solicitation, coordinate a robust grant writing team, identify the needs of the community through a data-driven process, generate and capture ideas and solutions from your community, and organize key community players to execute the proposed program. For more information, you can contact our DOJ Response Center, and the email address is there as well as the toll-free number. You can also find information about training and technical assistance opportunities on our justice.gov/tribal website. On the open solicitation page and the training and technical assistance page, you can sign up for email notifications when information on those pages is updated, which would include when the next solicitation is announced. In partnership with the CTAS committee, we have created an online guide that will help you think through and prepare in all of these areas of planning your program and your proposal, including an entire section on budget. We encourage you to use the guide for more in-depth detail on what we've briefly gone over here in this presentation. Each section is rich with information, interactive, and includes downloadable worksheets and tools to help you put together your best proposal. This online guide is not a requirement for getting funded, and using it will not directly increase your likelihood of getting funded, but we in the CTAS committee have poured a lot of knowledge and resources into it, and we hope that you will find it helpful. We'll be popping this out to you as a new window at the conclusion of this webinar. Let me talk you through a few highlights of the tool. One of the most important elements of submitting a great proposal, a proposal with a high probability of being funded, is taking the time to plan. As the CTAS committee reviews proposals, they are looking not only for well-written documents, but for what the proposal represents. Thoughtful program design, solid partnerships, strong knowledge of the challenges, and a program that will deliver results for the benefit of the tribal community. In order to have a good plan, you need to do a few things: read, assess, plan, design, partner, organize, and attend to detail. We maintain a frequently asked questions link on our dedicated website. Please visit that prior to submitting your application to be sure you haven't missed any updates. These questions are based on real questions proposed by applicants, and we do update those throughout the open period, so if there's a question that comes in that we realize has not been addressed anywhere previously, we will add that. We're very excited about the CTAS solicitation process as developed with the advice and assistance from tribes. We want to thank you for working with us to continue to improve this process. And now I'd like to open it up for any questions that anyone may have. We have a large team of our CTAS members here today to hopefully be able to answer any questions that have come up for you.
Hello, and when you start to ask your questions, please remember to specify a specific purpose area for your question. That way we can get you the correct person to respond. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, please unmute everyone.
J'avais une question ici. Comment obtenez-vous la prime lorsque vous vendez une option?
Maybe that didn't work. That was my mistake. We do need to be unmute and do it by typing.
You have been muted. Your microphone has been turned on.
Oh, no. Can we please ask folks, if you have questions, to type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen? Unfortunately, we're not able to unmute all the lines to have people all speak at once. There's too many folks on the call. But we would love to answer your questions. And if you could please specify which purpose area you are referring to. We are only able to answer questions specifically about the coordinated tribal assistance solicitation at this time. I see that there was an earlier question asking if we're going to make the PowerPoint itself available, and the answer to that is yes. You will be able to download the PowerPoint. If you look in the Files section at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to download it now. We also will be sending out a thank you email for those of you who have registered, and we will have the link to the recording, and we will have the PowerPoint presentation that will go out to you at that time.
Can we be muted in here for a second so they can't hear us?
Again, if you could please limit your questions to those that have to do with the coordinated travel assistance solicitation. That is all we're really prepared to answer at this time. And you can either type it into the chat box or into the Q&A box that should be at the bottom of your screen.
Are we unmuted right now? Okay. Well, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to throw out a few helpful things. Again, we replaced the executive summary with the application overview, but it's asking for the same information. So I just want to reiterate that the application overview is formally the executive summary. It's no longer being scored, but that information is very important and valuable to us. So for those who've applied before, you're doing nothing different than you've done before. It's just given a new name. I saw a question that to go.
Yeah, we're having some technical. If there's someone at the TTA Center that could read us out the questions in the Q&A box, we're not able to actually see them at this time.
Sure, this is Gandra. Andrew, he asked, under Purpose Area 4, I heard him say that renovations and additions to existing buildings are allowed, but new construction is not. Is an addition to an existing building not considered new construction? That was for Purpose Area 4.
I guess that is correct. My name is Julius Dupree. I'm with BJA, and I oversee the Purpose Area 4 solicitation. And actually, that is true. The only funding is allowable, only use of, or allowable use of funding under this program is renovation or expansion of existing facilities. So there's no new construction or new construction of buildings allowed under this particular project. So just to give you an example, let's say you have a police department that you want to renovate. That's an allowable use of funding. Or if you want to add a Sally portal into a correctional facility or add recreational space, to a correctional facility, that's allowable. If you want to renovate a building within your jurisdiction or your community to serve as a treatment facility, you can do that. And actually, We do encourage, more, looking towards more community-based solutions, primarily because, the rehabilitative efforts are shown to be more effective with certain populations as far as rehabilitation. And actually, it's a lot cheaper than secure, trying to build or renovate secure facilities, because there's a lot of cost that goes into the detention centers. And so I'd be happy to talk more offline with the gentleman if he wants to kind of know what his options are. But unfortunately, it's only limited to renovation of existing buildings.
Thank you. Elaine Baker asked, do you expect any financial impact from the presidential election results, i.e. less money for funding?
We have no way to know what the impacts will be, just like everyone else in the country at this time.
Kimberly Martis, does Alaska Native villages refer to federally recognized tribes?
Correct. Alaska Native villages are, for purposes of our solicitation, are considered as federally recognized tribes and eligible applicants.
How does a tribe apply if they don't have an indirect rate agreement in effect?
If they've never had an indirect cost rate agreement, they may elect to use the de minimis rate as indicated in the new uniform guidance. If they've had a rate before and is not active, they may want to reach out to their cognizant federal agency to talk about negotiating a current rate.
If funded before for Purpose Area 2, can you be funded again for Purpose Area 2 under a different scope?
Purpose Area 2 is generally a single award since it's designed to do system-wide strategic planning. The scope is supposed to be the full justice system rather than a specific narrow area. So typically, that would be something that you would only be eligible for one time.
Nora asked...
let me just add to that, I'm sorry. If you are looking to do strategic planning related to specific problems, all or almost all of the individual other purpose areas do allow for strategic planning as one of the allowable costs. So for example, you could apply to do strategic planning around reentry through Purpose Area 3, or a number of different topics depending on what you're interested in. So you can look at the other purpose areas.
Great, thank you. Nora asked, are there any examples of tribal community and justice profiles available online?
Yes, there is. If you go to the www.justice.gov/tribal website and you look under miscellaneous documents, you'll see something called Past Successful Application Packet. You can have a field day in there. So there's tons of great examples.
What is the max amount for renovation? This is for Purpose Area 3.
Renovation would typically be done under Purpose Area 4, so I'm going to pass that one to Julius.
Exactly. So for a single jurisdiction project, it would be up to $1 million. But for a regional facility, we would also consider requests up to $4 million. So regional would be considered 2 or more tribes or consortia applying for the funding.
Great. This is for Purpose Area 7. Is there no funds for prosecutors or investigators because OVC give the states or local DA offices money under the Comprehensive Tribal Victims Assistance Program? We ask because to work with our DA office, any crime must have a police report, and that is a large barrier in our Native American communities.
Okay, the funding under Purpose Area 7 cannot pay for the salaries of prosecutors or investigators. That's limited to Purpose Area 6 Children's Justice Act. Now, if you need some more information regarding what you're talking about getting police reports, you can always reach out to the contact information at the Office for Victims of Crime. There's 2 contact people there, and we'll be more than happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Are there separate peer reviewers for each purpose area, or do they receive and review the entire application as a whole?
There are separate peer reviewers for each purpose area. Regardless of how many purpose areas you apply for, the peer reviewers will receive the full set of application pieces that are relevant to that purpose area, so they'll get the community and justice profile, the budget, the timeline, and the purpose area specific narrative, but they won't be looking at the narrative for other purpose areas. And that's done largely because the different purpose areas have different areas of expertise and focus, and so we need to be able to tailor the peer review panels to actually know the subject matter that they're reviewing.
Okay, another question. Will mobile command units be available as equipment for the cops?
Yes, that's eligible.
Yes, it's eligible. Did you hear us on that answer?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Another question, was the executive summary previously scored?
Yes, it was.
Doesn't expansion also mean new construction?
That we really have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. It really depends on, the extent of. I mean, if you're building another building on a campus, then that could be considered expansion. But if you're looking at expanding a facility to include recreation or a gym, or something to that effect, then that's considered expansion, and it wouldn't be necessarily considered new construction, because you would have to have a whole new foundation or utilities and those types of things. So I guess my if you have a question specific to the project that you want to pursue, I would encourage you to send an email to me. My name is Julius Dupree. You can reach me at julius.dupree@usdoj.gov. That way I can take a look at it in writing, and then also I can work with our Office of General Counsel just to ensure that we are within the parameters of our solicitation on that.
Great. Is there a sample Purpose Area 2 application from past successful applicants?
Yes, the sample applications that my colleague James mentioned a few minutes ago on the justice.gov/tribal website has examples of successful applications in every one of the purpose areas, so you've got lots of choices there.
We are currently completing an existing project under Purpose Area number 4. That will be completed this spring. Are we eligible to apply for PA4 funding for a new project for 2017?
Yes, you're eligible to apply for a new project for 2017. That's correct.
Which purpose areas may be affected by a short-term continuing resolution instead of a full year appropriation?
Well, actually, working on under a short-term continuing resolution, our funding level is commensurate to what it was last year. So it's, at this point, I mean, we wouldn't expect any changes as far as funding availability from what it was last year for this year, as while we're under the continuing resolution.
Okay. And how are the peer reviewers selected?
It's a variety of ways. Sometimes we have folks just contact us and send in their resume, and sometimes it's word of mouth from folks that people know. It's a variety of things.
And then once the applications are submitted, each program office will match potential peer reviewers with the specific needs of their purpose area.
COP
And then
funding.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was just going to say about the peer reviewers, we also evaluate the peer reviewers after the end of our consensus call, so that may play a part in whether someone is back the next year or not, or,
Right, and essentially all the peer reviewers that we select from they actually go into a pool of reviewers, and when we look at whether we really, one of the stronger, I guess, characteristics we look at is whether they have a background in tribal, working in tribal justice systems. So that is definitely a critical component, and then we drill down even further depending on the purpose area to determine whether they have the skill set to review, based on the subject matter. So for instance, we will want people to, if you're corrections, then you'll probably be with the purpose area 4. If you're a substance abuse treatment provider, you could be selected under purpose area 3 or JJ, or so we do have a process in house to where we do look at the criteria of the folks. But it is primarily practitioners that are the folks that are actually selected for peer review.
Okay, great. Next question, COPS funding. Does this funding support additional law enforcement entities, conservation law, or working on the reservation with tribal police departments?
Yes.
Okay. Would adding on to the current court building to make the courtroom larger be considered expansion or renovation?
That would be considered an expansion project, but I mean that would be an allowable use of funding.
Okay, and what is DOJ's definition of Indian land? Is it only reservation trust lands, or does it also include simple fee off reservation tribal lands?
That I know that the tribal lands is basically, if you're going to construct any of our facilities, whether it be a transitional living facility or a detention center or a court, it does have to be on tribal trust land. I would have to look up the simple off fee. That's something that I'm not really quite familiar with, and I'd have to get back to the caller on that. So if we can save that question and I can get back to him on that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, no problem. And Debbie Carlson, if we have a Purpose Area 4 grant currently that we will probably complete but may not by this September 30th, 2017, can we still apply for additional funds this round, as long as we will be finished with the first grant by the time that we originally said we would?
Sure. I mean, you could definitely apply, but I will say that, when we review applications, we do take into consideration, tribes that we have funded, and we'll also take a look to see if there are tribes that are applying that have not received any funding from us. So, even though we have the peer reviewer piece to this, we also look at other variables and making ultimate determinations as far as funding. But I mean, you're encouraged to apply. But we've had tribes that have receive funding in consecutive years, and it just really depends on availability of funding and you know, the number of applicants we receive and the geographical diversity, and so all these things will come into play.
We have a couple more people typing. Okay, Ann Cross, I would like to receive the information on the definition of the Indian land question. Okay. Because the peer reviewer took that into consideration with another grant, so we need to make sure that is okay.
Okay. For the person that has that question or anyone else who has a question about how we define tribal lands, if you could just send an email to tribalgrants@usdoj.gov. That way we can just make sure it gets to where it needs to go. Again, that's tribalgrants@usdoj.gov.
Okay, is there any more questions? You can include those in the Q&A box. Looks like we have about 5 more minutes. There was a question in regards to the PowerPoint files in the files download box. One of them is the actual PowerPoint, and the other one is a PDF version. So they're the same. They're just different types of files. Okay, Kimberly Martis, she asked, can you provide a reference to the de minimis indirect rate agreement info?
We will, we'll have to, you can email me at angela.wade@usdoj.gov, and I'll provide that information directly to you. Again, that's angela.wade@usdoj.gov. And just a reminder that any questions that you might have can go to tribalgrants@usdoj.gov. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar along with a thank you for attending to everyone who's registered. And then we'll also have a transcript available if anyone is going to need a transcript. And I also just want to remind people to, if you want more specific budget-related information, we do have a webinar scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and Angela will be presenting on that webinar. So if you have more, specific budget questions, please do register for that.
Looks like we had one last question pop up. A grant is ending that funds a position. Is it considered supplanting to request funding to continue this position?
Okay, so I guess if the position was funded by the grant and not locally funded position, then it would not be considered subplanning, but it has to be a position that was not originally in the local budget for it to be considered allowable to use grant funds to continue to support that position.
COPS does not provide renewal funding.
Like we might have time for one last question if anyone has one. You can still type into the Q&A box.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. You will be receiving a survey link in the email that you provided in your registration. Please fill that out and give us some feedback on how we can better assist you in providing information to apply for the new CTAS fiscal year 17 funding. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to give us an email, give us a call. All the information will be provided in the thank you email. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.